So, you only help the forest if I do this? Bramble asks. I don't like it, but I'll do anything for the forest. The small buck lies on his side, his tail lifted to give you full view of his rump. His asshole quivers nervously, his balls tucked in between his thighs. He's doing his best to conceal it, but you can tell his cock is rock hard. Obviously, he's uncomfortable, yet clearly, he's turned on by the thought of being rutted by another male. Perhaps it's just the novelty of it, or the anticipation of the unknown. Or maybe deep down it's something that he has always wanted to try. You approach slowly, putting your hand on his soft thigh. Bramble trembles at your touch, and visibly swallows as he avoids meeting your gaze. Well, get on with it then, he says, then gasps when your other hand wraps gently around his neck. His entire body is shaking as he starts to pant, both in fear and arousal. You lift him against you, bracing his back against your stomach. His poor mind must have been overwhelmed, because he hangs limply in your half-hug. No longer does he even attempt to hide his erection, his thin penis dripping pre-cum onto the forest floor. Are you sure you don't like this? You ask, brushing your finger in wide, slow circles on his flanks. Of course not, Bramble says after a pregnant pause, his voice breathy and girly as he struggles to control it. He coughs, his cheeks burning even brighter. I'm a buck, not a doe. Well, don't worry, you say. I'll help the forest. You give his butt a light slap. But I'm not going to make you do something you don't want to. As he splutters, you give him a quick kiss on the top of his head, then gently let him go. Come on, you say. Let's go back to the others. On the way, you can fill me in on what exactly you need me to do. His cheeks are bright red and he glowers at the ground, but eventually he grumbles. Thank you, human. At least you have honor. Between his legs, his pulsing cock slaps from side to side as he stands. Do you need me to take care of that? You ask, trying to hide your mirth. Shut up. During the walk back to Ticket, Bramble eventually recovers enough to regale you with his plans to save the forest. They seem wildly bold and optimistic, but rather than shooting them down, you're content just to ask a few critical questions here and there. It's nice to see him fired up, instead of depressed and angry. When you reach Thicket, however, it's clear that none of your plans will come to fruition. King Aspen has much more conservative strategies in mind. In the end, you are assigned to Bramble's personal guard, the king disdainfully referring to you as his son's toy soldier. I don't understand why he still treats me like a fawn, Bramble later confides in you. I've seen many moons. I'm a warrior, not a weakling. It's the night before operations begin, and the prince has been assigned to the rear guard. The likelihood that he'll see any combat action is very slim. My father is too cautious, Bramble continues, his brow furrowed in anger. He will allow the enemy to clear the forest straight to Thicket before he will allow his forces to commit to battle. If we keep waiting, we'll lose everything. After a week, Bramble's complaints appear to have been prophetic. The king's guerrilla tactics have made no headway in stemming the Minotaur's rapid deforestation. Meanwhile, the two of you have not spoken about your almost liaison in the forest, though ever so often you catch Bramble staring at you, only for him to look away, blushing furiously. We must strike them directly, he says one evening after a sweaty sparring session. We must show them that it would not be profitable to chop down the forest, that it would never be profitable. His frustration had been evident in his fighting, lashing at you with wild blows that were easily controlled and deflected. What is your plan? You ask. Unconsciously or not, he sits beside you, his legs touching yours. The smell of him is musky and sweet, his sides still heaving from the exertion of training. He sits up and fixes you with a look of determination that makes you proud to call him Prince. I will tell you, human, and we shall put it into action tonight. Torchlight flickers outside the thick wooden bars of your cell. Of course, you would rather not be down there. But the dungeons of Thicket are not all that uncomfortable, all things considered. You are roused by the sound of hooves, and the door opens. The prince requests your presence, a gruff voice says. An old deer guard stands in shadow, waiting for you to step out. Am I free then? You ask. The guard says nothing more, and you resign yourself to follow him up into the palace. He guides you through the back halls and servants' passages, until at last you stand outside Bramble's quarters. The guard opens the door and motions for you to go inside. You half expected him to follow you in, but he simply shuts the door behind you. The room is simply appointed, save for the large 4-poster bed in its center. Atop a pile of blankets lies Bramble, his eyes covered by a thick bandage. This was the first time you had seen him since your failed sally into Minotaur territory. It was only through sheer luck that you and the prince had returned at all. Sit, Bramble commands when he hears you approach. You do so, the mattress sinking slightly at your weight. The small buck lies splayed out beside you, breathing slowly. The physician says I should be able to see again, once the wounds have healed. He says. He pauses. I'm sorry my father threw you into the dungeon. Does he know I'm here? Not yet. But I know he always intended to let you go. The blame for this lies solely on me, not you. I chose to go with you. You believed in me, Bramble says fiercely. I hear enough counsel on caution and patience. I wanted for once to take my fate to my own hooves. And how do you feel now? Like a fool. Like how my father has always seen me. A weak little fawn. You say nothing, allowing him to gather his thoughts. He's lying quite close to you, warmth radiating from his body. You're not weak, you say gently. Caution takes wisdom, but it takes courage to act. Courage means nothing if you fail, Bramble grumbles, sullen. How do you know that we failed? You ask. The explosion destroyed at least one of their machines, maybe more. They won't leave because of it. He replies, I wanted to win. I wanted to end the war. It won't end just like that. You said, yours was just one act. You need a tide. All your people, acting bravely, in unison. But how? They all wish to follow my father, slow, cautious, and effective. He trails off, lost in his own thinking. Why do you follow me? He asks, suddenly. Is it only because of what I did in the forest? When you asked me to, I follow you because I like you, you say. But not only because of that. You have a strong spirit, Bramble. I'm attracted to that. When you look down at him again, you see that he's blushing. Is there something you want to tell me? you say, laughing a little, but trying to encourage him. If I'm being honest, I must say that I still think about what happened there from time to time. What about it? Always I am treated like a fragile thing, but no one ever respects my wishes. He swallows. You did. Bramble's breathing has quickened, and he shifts on his blanket, as if unconsciously trying to hide. I'm embarrassed by how my body reacted. He continues, no one has ever touched me in that way before. I apologize if I took offense. You say, when I asked you to sleep with me in exchange for my help, it was only a joke. I didn't expect you to take me up on it. Flushing an even deeper shade of crimson, Bramble curls in on himself. You certainly had your fun. He flicks his tail, and with a quick glance, you notice that his penis had slid from its sheet, sliding up between his belly and the bed sheets. Would you like me to touch you again? You ask lightly. A little shiver runs through him. I don't understand why I feel this way, he says. Is it not unbecoming for a prince to offer himself up like a doe? That's up for you to decide. He buries his face into his pillow and flops over onto his stomach, baring his rump, his balls squished into the sheets. Only with you, he says muffled. No one else. If that is what you wish. It is, he says, then, nervously pleading. Please. Touch me, as you did in the forest. Just seeing him lying there, his butt angled invitingly in your direction, is enough to get you going. His pleading just spurs you on even more. Still, you force yourself to go slowly, wanting to give the prince as much pleasure as you can. Your hands slide over his small, round buttock, covering them almost entirely. He gasps at your touch, his soft fur brushing beneath your fingers. You give his ass a little squeeze, then trace your fingertips down the back of his legs, skirting his inner thighs. Shivering, Bramble presses his face into the pillow, just as he presses his hips into your hands, tactilely begging for more. Your hand slides back up his legs, and on the upstroke, you allow your fingers to brush over his balls as lightly as feathers. Bramble lets out a yelp, his scrotum tightening as your hand passes by. His cock is straining against the sheets. You can smell his musky pre-cum, and you can see it oozing from his tip when you gently roll him onto his back. You play with his back legs a little more, holding the left in your lap and slowly rubbing it while his right hangs limply. The prince is blushing hotly and looking away even though his eyes are covered by the bandage. His penis is so hard that it presses into his belly, its pink, tapered length throbbing in time with his little gasp and pants, and his balls are very tight. With the way his belly is moving with each shallow breath, he appears so aroused that you fear he could go off at the slightest touch. Positioning yourself against one of the bedposts, you pull him into your embrace, mimicking the position you put him in back in the forest. His back presses into your stomach, and your hand gently finds his neck. Your other hand rubs his belly, just shy of his throbbing tip, so close that his warm pre-cum smears onto your palm. He squirms against you, trembling violently each time your hand brushes over one of his sensitive spots. Yes. He whimpers, barely audible, his body going almost completely limp as you touch him. The smell of him is strong and sweet, like leaves and rain. You kiss the back of his head and trace your lips over his ears, grazing them with your teeth. A rhythm takes over of kissing him, rubbing him, never touching his pulsing cock, save for the barest graze from your fingers, each time eliciting a girly moan from his throat. Perhaps, without even thinking about it, he begins to grind his ass into you, his small buttocks moving from side to side with each press. You move him down a short distance, so that he can feel your cock. When he does, he freezes, suddenly trembling. "Is this all right?" you ask, stopping for him. After a moment, he nods weakly. I've just never felt one before." "Does it feel good?" He snorts, but then his face relaxes. "It feels amazing." You resume grinding against him, very slowly at first, driving your clothed erection up and down between his taut, round butt. As you do so, you begin kissing Bramble's neck, just as your hand slides down to caress both his thighs. His whimpering grows louder and more erratic, his squirming more feverish. When he can take no more, he twists against you, throwing his forelimbs around you in a tight hug. His open mouth blindly mushes into your face in a clumsy kiss. His cock presses insistently against your stomach. Gently, you guide his lips onto yours, and you let him slide his tongue into your mouth as he takes his first kiss. He arches his back when you both pull away, saliva trailing between your mouths. "I want you to keep going," he says, then commanding, "I want you to rut me. Please, fill me up." "I'll be gentle," you say, "and slow. Just tell me if it hurts. I'll fix it." "Yes, please," he begs. "Please, please." You drag him over the edge of the bed, where eagerly he spreads his leg, his tail flopping down to give you a clear path to his asshole. Knowing that this was his first time, you once again force yourself not to be over-eager. Dropping to your knees, you use your hand to prop up his legs, and begin to kiss up and down his inner thighs, that white diamond of soft fur marking his crotch. Bramble lets out a long groan when your tongue laps over his balls, and you feel his ass tense up, as if he's about to come, but he manages to hold back. The musk of his cock is so thick that you can taste it, like a sweet, sweet vapor. You dip down to lick and suck at his asshole, feeling it quiver each time, enjoying Bramble's moaning and squirming. When it seems like he's relaxed his hold just enough, you carefully collect some pre-cum on a finger and use it to spread him open, just slightly. Very cautiously, you push it inside, easing it in deeper and deeper, fucking him with it so he can get used to the sensation. His thin, little cervine legs are trembling hard by the time you've slipped in up to your knuckle. You can feel his swollen prostate under your fingertip, a hot little button begging to be pressed. When you withdraw your finger, the membrane of his asshole sucks at it greedily, as if it's trying to keep it inside. You fold yourself over him, shadowing his body with your own, letting him feel your hot breath on his face. "Are you ready?" you ask, stroking his cheeks. Yes, please," Bramble gasped, his voice heavy with lust. "Put it in me, please." You undo the fastening of your pants and undergarments and pull out your own member. First, you prod it against his tight hole, extending his ache. You rub his stomach, his breathing fast and erratic as he arches his back again. Then, very slowly, you begin to push inside, the tip disappearing, and then the shaft slips in, so inch by inch. The breath catches in Bramble's throat, and his legs twitches with each passing moment, and then he exhales in a loud, shuddering moan, his thighs squeezing inwards, then relaxing. Your cock slides into him smoothly, aided by his pre-cum and his willingness, and soon you've hilted completely inside. His soft butt presses into your crotch, legs splayed to each side, his balls resting against the top of your pelvis. They bounce as you thrust, just a slight movement, but enough to send a wave of pleasure throughout his entire body. You continue like this, grinding into his prostate, one hand holding him in place, the other massaging his chest. Bramble's moan grows louder and louder, his mouth hanging wide open, drool stripping from his tongue, clearly lost in ecstasy. You know he's about to come, and you know you've teased him for long enough. Good boy, you say into his ear. Good boy. His anus suddenly clenches down around your cock, his ass tightening, hips humping the air. Add-on, he cries as he comes hands free, thick deer semen spurting from his cock and all over his stomach. You continue fucking him as he orgasms, milking him with your cock, feeling him spasm again and again, each time shooting another milky rope of sperm. Over a minute goes by before he finally seems to relax into a shuddering, softly crying mess. You pull out and take him into your arms, stroking his head and ears as you hold him tightly. Panting into your cheeks, Bramble trembles as you hug him, whimpering quiet words of thanks and affection. Your own cock still throbs, but you know that this was enough for the prince. You can care for yourself later. Gently, you carry him back to his pillows and lie him down. He cuddles into your arms, as if trying to soak up more of your warmth. Thank you, Anon, he says, using your name for the second time. Doing this for me, I don't know what to say. It's alright, you say, kissing his forehead. I would do anything for you, my prince. After cleaning off both him and yourself, you tuck him back into bed. I'll see you again, you say, as he drifts off into slumber. The old guard says nothing when you step back out into the hall, though he does give you a knowing look. He takes you back to the dungeon. Do you follow the prince? You ask him, before he locks you in your cell once again. Aye, the guard says simply. He's brave, and his ideas are good. Then speak of your support to the other guards. Let it be known that you approve of Prince Bramble's strategies. Perhaps the king will consider his tactics, if his army would rather follow the example of his son. I will, the guard says, and then he is gone, leaving you in the flickering torchlight. Hey, for all the people who actually listened to this, thank you so much. It really means a lot that you actually care this much. I mean, this was sort of meant as a reward kind of thing, you know, like hey, thanks for caring so much about me. It really means a lot. I don't expect this video to get much views. Maybe 50. I'm going with 50. No more than 50. That's alright, because it's, well, not really meant to get any more than that. At least not at the moment. Maybe I'll open this up to public viewings at some point, and, you know, we'll go from there. At that point, maybe we'll actually get some good view numbers, 200, something like that. But that's for maybe a month in the future. Right now, this is just meant to be a huge, huge thank you. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Bye.